everybody. Welcome back to my show. Today we have a guest episode, which I am so excited for. I am pre-recording this introduction really quickly because when we did this guest episode, we honestly just jumped right into it and we just got straight into the conversation. I am with the amazing Almost 30 girls in today's episode. They're going to introduce themselves. I will let them do that, but these two girls were absolutely amazing. And I just wanted to share a little introduction before this episode started because we were just yapping on and on and on before this episode began. So I wanted to kind of give you guys a moment to just see me, relax, and make sure that you grab your iced coffee and you get ready for this episode because it is a juicy one. It is a really, really good one. And I also want to thank Hoff Studios for letting us use their studio to film. It actually was one of my best podcasting in studio experiences. So if you have a podcast, definitely go check it out. I'm going to link all of their stuff down below as well. DM me for any details on the studio as well. I would love to share everything, but I highly recommend using their studio and let them know that I sent you. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of this episode.
Okay, guys, so we have a guest interview today, and also I just want to say before we even get really into this, you guys have been like a breath of fresh air, like talking to, because you guys are podcasters too, so obviously I'm sure you've been in situations either as a guest or whatever where it's like there's no flow, there's no like, it's not comfortable. Yes. And I just feel like the best conversations happen. You can have the structure, the notes, but when you're just comfortable with each other and talking, it's just the best thing ever.
It's the best. We've had 800 interviews now.
Yeah. Wow.
And we've had not so many, but yeah, it's frustrating when people don't understand that a part of this job is being a conversationalist and having a conversation and sharing and being open. So it's like a part of the process. But yeah, we've had some rough ones, I'm sure.
And our preference is to be like super conversational like you. So it's just nice when you kind of meet someone else who like kind of gets the flow where it's not just question answer. It's like really, really engaging. So.
And you dig deeper that way too.
I agree.
Yes, for sure. We were already talking.
Yeah, I know.
Your whole life story.
I literally gave I think I just went to therapy.
Honestly, anyone talking to me, it's like you're gonna go to the deepest, and I'm just like, wow.
Yeah.
Tell me about you.
Yeah, and I was telling them I'm really excited because, as you guys know, for my podcast, I started it because I wanted to be a big sister to anybody who doesn't have one, and now I feel like I'm like the little sister today and taking the back seat and just hearing about you guys. So I'm excited. We already kind of talked, we flowed, but I want a little bit of a background for anyone watching or listening that doesn't know who you guys are. Just a little bit about you guys, what you do, where you come from, all that good stuff.
Yeah, I'm so grateful to be here and with your girls, with your girlies. It feels good to be in the big sis seat. So I'm Krista. I grew up in a small town in Ohio, and I'm always someone that's just wanted more from life. So whether that was leaving Ohio or leaving my corporate job or moving to Los Angeles or starting Almost 30 with Lindsey, I've wanted to live a really big, beautiful life. And that meant really hard times, and that meant failing a lot. That meant embarrassing myself. And that also meant having really beautiful experiences like the ones we've had building the business. And I'm just someone that's really passionate about supporting people and living a life to the fullest and becoming the person that they came here to be.
Oh, wow, I love that.
And I'm from a small town in Pennsylvania, oldest of 4 kids. You and I just bonded over being the oldest. Having that energy throughout life is fun and interesting. But yeah, I'm someone who had like a very clear vision for my life from an early age. And what I mean by that is I really wanted to be a famous actress. You know, I thought I was going to be married by the time I was 27, have kids by the time I was 30, you know, I had this plan. And when Krista and I met in our late 20s, that plan just kind of started to dissolve. And I was in a place in my life that I didn't thought I would be. And I just thought I would have it more figured out. And I was like really frustrated and kind of sad about that, you know, and not really realizing that this period in my late 20s was a time, and we can talk about it, but astrologically, neurologically, and a few other layers that is really purposeful and actually meant to change us and meant to work on us so that we can enter our 30s and the rest of our life with just more of a connection to who we really are. Because up until that point, like, I don't know, I was just following everybody else's rules. Same. Like what my parents thought I should do. And not that that's bad, but there comes a time when you have to individuate. So yeah, it's been a zigzag journey for me in terms of like what I've done career-wise and just what I've been interested in, where I've lived. But I don't know, in my 30s, I just feel like I now know that it just keeps getting better. And it's through those like intense periods of change that's able to happen.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people just spend. I'm 24, so I'm like right in that
Baby
middle.
chicky.
Yeah, right in that
girl.
Oh my
right in that
gosh.
middle spot of the 20s,
Yes.
and I've just been like having a realization because I thought of who I was at 20 and who I am at 24, and I'm like, I feel like I've spent the past 4 years just waiting for the next thing. Like,
Yeah.
and I feel like that's very common for your 20s is you're just always waiting. So do you guys feel like someone's, I guess, background in childhood can kind of affect how they, like you said, you kind of like knew what your life was going to look like and then it didn't look that way. So why do you think that people kind of have this certain vision for themselves and set those expectations?
Well, I think growing up, you know, if the household that you grew up in, your parents are going to really imprint on you of what they think you should do, the people around you. Like, for example, I grew up in a small town in Ohio. So where I grew up, people didn't really have podcasts, build businesses. They weren't entrepreneurs. So no one around me had a really full, rich life. So I didn't really have that expectation for myself. And I think when you're in your 20s up until around 26, you're really just living with kind of the programming from your parents, from your friends, from the people around you. And so it makes sense that you'd be waiting for the next thing because maybe there's a bigger life that's available for you or not. But yeah, your parents are definitely going to influence what you see for your life. How do you think that's impacted you?
Right. Yeah, because I come from like a very Middle Eastern traditional background. It's funny because my parents are very different than most Middle Easterns. Like my mom worked growing up. She never wanted to stop working, which is very uncommon nowadays in our culture, at least, like for a woman to work, especially back then. So both of my parents worked. My dad actually went to college too, which is crazy. Like little boy from Syria goes to Lebanon, then all of a sudden goes to college. So like my parents, I feel like took that extra step with their parents so I didn't have to. So because they separated from that, I didn't really have to feel so much pressure. It was never... my parents, I will say, gave me a lot of room to make mistakes. They really did. There was obviously certain things like you couldn't go out past this time, like getting my phone taken away, like the typical older daughter thing too. And as I've gotten older, they really do just let me make my own mistakes. But there is definitely still a line of like, you can't move out, you can't do this. But I do think genuinely if I sat down with my parents and said, I really need to do this for my life, they would let me. It's just I feel like I don't want to.
Yeah.
And maybe I don't want to because I don't think I should. I don't know if it's like deep rooted, but I'm like, I'm comfortable where I am.
Yeah.
Would I love to live in New York and live that life? Yes. But I'm also like, maybe that just chapter wasn't meant for me, you know?
I think too, what's beautiful about what you said, and I think a lot of listeners can relate, like your parents took it further and then you took it even further by being an entrepreneur, by having a podcast. Like it's probably not popular for a Middle Eastern woman to have a podcast and use your voice in this way. So it's just like each generation, we just kind of take it further and we just take what our parents did and we kind of bring it along to something that feels more us.
Yeah. And sometimes I still have like a push and pull of like, I just want to be a housewife and like,
Oh,
you know.
I think every woman does. Oh my God, same.
But also life is long, you know? And I just, I feel like one of the things I think we've learned over the last 10 years of doing the show and just kind of moving through that late 20s period was like, life is very seasonal. You know, we think we have to have this like time where we do have it figured all out and then it's that for the rest of our lives. And you know, if we allow the change to kind of roll in, if we allow ourselves to evolve and kind of what our life looks like, I think it's so much more fun. Like imagine you have a season of your life where you are a housewife and have kids and tend to that, and that is your main focus. How beautiful. And then maybe later in your life you want to start a freaking bakery. I don't know. Like it's just it's so cool to kind of allow the way you change to like color your life in a really beautiful way rather than like thinking, oh, I have to be the same thing for the rest of my life or else what does that mean about me? What would people think of me? It's just kind of releasing that.
I think from like the big sister lens, I think that's something that I didn't really realize was possible or I didn't really think about happening. You know, when I look back from the age I am now to my 20s, when I was 24, I didn't realize, like I can see now all the chapters, corporate world, fitness, trying, like living in New York City, living in Chicago, club girl, rave girl, you know, health girl, like all these different phases of life. And you can see that clearly when you're looking back. But when you guys are younger and you're looking forward, you're like, oh my God, I have to like figure it out. And that's the thing too, is we wanted to remind people with our book, like you do not have to have it all figured out. Like, it's about the process of becoming. It's about the process of exploring. It's about the process of having the uncertainty of what's next and not knowing to feel like an adventure rather than feel like anxiety, because I feel like so many people, especially in your generation, have so much anxiety around what's next.
Well, that's what I was just going to say. When you said life is so long and you can have all these chapters, I thought of myself, I'm a very anxious type A, need to know what's going on person. So I think that's why I can't accept that I can have all these stages of life, you know, because I'm like, well, I'm 24 and then I'm going to get married and then I'm going to, like, I have this path. So I think that's also very common for girls in their 20s, is they really think that this could be the only chapter and like everything around, you know what I mean?
We put so much pressure on the 20s and the 30s to kind of be when we peak, you know, and even in college or even earlier, like, I think people have different perspectives. Krista often says, like, you know, people told me college was the peak. Oh yeah. You know, and it's so not in the grand scheme of things. But we put so much pressure on where we are right now and forget just how long life is. And it's not to say you can't be ambitious and have dreams and actually take action. That's so important. But I think we kind of distort where we are right now and kind of don't give credit to what is like the becoming part of it, the process part of it. We really need the thing to be like fully bloomed and fully here for us to appreciate it, to actually start living our lives, to feel confident. And there's just so much beauty in that like process state.
Yeah. Right. I remember when my parents got divorced when I was in college, and just kidding. So they got divorced in college, and I remember like realizing in a way that they were people, and my dad went to live in this place and my mom went to live in this place, and I just saw them kind of in their process of things, and I was like, wow, they're going through a huge period of change and transformation and transition that they would have never seen coming. This chapter of them being single again or them being in this process again, they probably never saw, and is huge for them. And I was like, there was a part of me that when I was younger saw my parents and I was like, once you're married with kids, life is over and you stop changing and you stop evolving because you have it all figured out. Not only does that make our entire future depend on another person, because it says once you're married, you're set, no changes are happening, you're all good, but it also means that like you're not going to be someone that learns and grows. And it just really struck me where I was like, wow, there's going to be different seasons in life, whether it's having kids or, you know, the kids having kids or having divorce or you know, there's just so much that happens that we can't predict. And if we think that we can control our life, it's just not true.
Right. And I feel like when you have that mindset and things happen in life, like a breakup or your parents getting divorced or a friendship like falling out, I think you really think life is over, because you're like, wait, I had set out all of this. I only knew myself dating this person. Who am I without this person? So what is kind of your guys' outlook, I guess, on outgrowing? I think something that's really common on my show is outgrowing friendships in your 20s. And I feel like that's something I'm kind of dealing with right now. So let's talk a little bit about friendships, the people around you, outgrowing, all that stuff.
Name names.
Yeah.
And addresses.
They're listening.
We have a chapter in our book called Friendship 2.0, and it's talking about this because it's such a deep reckoning, because I feel like we tie our identity and our worth and just like the quality of our life to our friendships, which I think is a beautiful thing. But not very often do we allow for that like evolution and change within relationship, because we're so worried about what it means about us and what it means about the relationship. So first I want to say that not all friends are like the same categorically in your life. I think there are friends who and Krista talks about this in her chapter. There are friends who are there, you know, in your 9-to-5 life. It's like your work wife, and they're there through like the trials and tribulations in your work. And then there are the friends who are like lifers, you know, that have been through so much with you. Friends who, you know, who have been with you through the highs and the lows. And, you know, there could be some like rocky times where you're like, I don't know if we're gonna make it past a certain season, because it just feels like we've changed so much, you know? So all that to say, there are just ways in which, and we talk about it in the book, that you can kind of categorize your friends, which sounds a little savage, but it's true, you know? Not every friend is going to give you all that you need and be all that you need. And I think that's a healthy way to view friendships. And then the other piece of, you know, kind of looking at your friendships is am I allowing my full self to come to this relationship? And what I mean by full self is that, you know, all of us are very dynamic human beings. And sometimes we only feel comfortable with certain people to show up as our best selves. And we don't feel comfortable to show up as kind of like the messy, unprocessed, maybe like just that crunchy side of it. You're like, I don't want people to see that. But to have those relationships where you can show up as your full self, I think are the relationships that I invest in the most, because I know that I don't have to put on a mask, that I can really be myself. And it also tells me that those friendships really support my evolution and how I change throughout the friendship, and vice versa. And then I just think evaluating your relationship to change within those friendships is so important. Krista and I, like, our friendship has been just the biggest vehicle of growth for both of us, and serves as a model for like kind of how we teach about friendship, because we've been through so much. So I want to like end this part by just mentioning a really, really powerful practice that I think friends can use in times when things feel a bit like crunchy, distorted, where you're like, things feel a little odd and weird between us. Like, I just feel the tension, or I feel like we're changing and we're not communicating enough. We use this practice called a clearing conversation. And the intention for the conversation is to clear any distortion in your friendship field, basically. Anything that might not be true, or maybe assumptions that you're making, or stories you're telling yourself. Krista and I love to do this on a walk, because we're moving our bodies, we're moving energy. We're not looking at each other straight in the eye and like, you know, putting each other in fight or flight. And we come to the conversation as really great listeners, and just committing to telling the truth, being honest about how we feel, how we want to feel after this conversation, and what's coming up for us. And we share what's coming up for us using I statements. So really taking responsibility and accountability in the moment for, you know, what you are bringing and the stories that you are telling yourself, so that it kind of disarms the other person. It also just invites them in to do the same. And it's been just like a literal magic, like little magic trick that happens when after a clearing conversation. It's like all the weirdness lifts, and you're actually able to see the person who loves you, who like wants basically the same thing for the relationship as you do. And all the distortion just clears, and you're able to kind of get to the truth of the matter and how you can then move forward and just be better in the relationship. And it's a very like, you know, it might be a little hard to do at first, but with more practice, I feel like we've gotten so good at it. And I think you can bring this to any relationship that just feels like it's changing.
I do feel like y'all at your age, communication is not fully online.
I also feel
that was my experience where I was like in my 20s. I was like, I am so mad at her, and I couldn't like say it.
Right.
Like you didn't understand why you were upset, but you were upset, or tell me about your experience.
I just feel like I think communication, agree, 100%, number one. I'm very good at communicating. It's weird. I'm very good at communicating in my relationship and not in my friendships.
It makes total sense.
But I will also say that I think in certain friendships, you get to a point where you just give up. And you're like, no matter how much we talk or how much I say, it doesn't matter. And there's also been a situation in my life where there was no communication. It was just one day, poof, gone.
Wow.
And it was just like, oh, what happened? And no matter how much like I reached out to this girl, like there was no response. And it's like, oh, like you didn't value me enough to even communicate with me why you were cutting me out of your life completely. I later on found out why, but I was like, oh, okay, like it's just, I think that also those conversations help, because at the end of it, you're like, this person just walked with me for an hour to talk about things to repair our friendship. So even if everything they said maybe didn't make that much sense, it's like they sat here and spent the time to make sure that we were okay. So I think that's also why.
Yeah, that's great.
I do agree that it's very difficult nowadays. I don't honestly know why, because I'm a talker. I can communicate through anything. Like if you sit me down and you're like, I want to talk, I can do it.
Yeah.
But I will say that I know a lot of people where I'm just like, why can't you just like speak about this? But it's because if they're not facing their own feelings when they're 1v1, why are they going to face them with you?
Yeah, that's so real. Actually, clip that. Because I think when you're younger, when I was in my 20s, first of all, I didn't understand why I was feeling what I was feeling or what I was feeling. A lot of times with the women in my life, I felt like I don't know. Like, I was just like, we were too close, or I was frustrated with what they were doing with their lives, or they were frustrated with me. It was like some codependency stuff, like opinions on each other's experiences and lives and all of that. And I just feel like for a lot of people, I'll express my experience just as a coach, it's like people don't know how to have conversations. So if I was to be like, hey babe, like I'm feeling really anxious about our relationship, and our relationship's important to me, and I'd love to talk about like how you're feeling and how I'm feeling, because I just want to clear anything that's like not here. For a lot of people that's like impossible. Right. So what they'll do is run or avoid or deflect or they'll just act out. And that's like basic communication skills that you can't really teach someone, but really come up during that time. Which is hard. But friendship transitions a lot in your 20s. It's probably one of the biggest conversations that we want to bring, because I feel like it impacted my life so much. Our relationships are so meaningful. People talk about romantic relationships, but not friendships. And for women, especially, friendships are such an important aspect of our lives. Like friendships have been the most healing, beautiful experience for me and have changed my life. And so to have deep, meaningful ones can just transform you.
Right. And like you were saying too before, you can have like categorized friends. And I think that when you're young, that's hard to grasp, like in your early 20s, because you're like, what do you mean this friend, I can do everything with them? Like we go to high school together, we go to college together, so everything can relate. And then you get separate jobs and you go into separate relationships and you're like, wait, like this is weird. And it might make you feel like you and this friend don't connect anymore, but it's like, no, you're just on different paths. So I feel like that's also a really hard transition when you and someone love each other a lot. No one did anything wrong, but it's just like we're on completely different paths.
Yeah. And in your 20s, I mean, the average age of getting married is 28.5. The average age of having a kid now is 29.5. You guys are moving. There's just so much change, especially from like a brain level. Your prefrontal cortex is coming online, so you're thinking about things differently. So with all of that, it would make sense that you have different priorities, different values. You're just moving in different directions. So your relationships are naturally going to change. But I remember feeling really heartbroken at points in my 20s, just like so bummed. Like I felt
friendships, like breakups, suck.
The worst.
Yeah. Oh my God, it's not talked about enough.
No,
it's worst. Really not.
Honestly, because with men, like I could just be like, whatever,
like like,
you know,
sure.
like I'm gonna get another
There's
one.
so many flaws to point out with a man, but for a woman it's like, wait, like
I'm like, give me 5 minutes, I'll get the ick. And with a friend, you're like, oh no, like you just feel shame and you feel guilt and you feel like something's wrong with you, and a lot of that is, I talk about the mother wound in the book, but the relationship to our mother sets the tone for our lives. So maybe you and your mom have great communication,
right?
Potentially. For a lot of women, they didn't have moms that they really trusted, felt safe with, felt really supported by. So that lack of connection and communication in that relationship kind of sets the stage for your female friendships, because you weren't able to have a safe space. Like even Lindsey, as an example, like she's my best friend, and I think I trusted her after 7 years because I just never trusted women.
That's crazy. Wow.
Yeah, and I never did. And it was because my mom relationship was so hard. So if women want to think about healing their female friendship wound, I think looking at the patterns that you're in really clearly is helpful. So writing that down, getting clear on what those are. Maybe it's codependency, maybe it's competitiveness, maybe it's jealousy, maybe it's gossip. Right. Finding what you can take responsibility for. I think that's the biggest piece of this whole thing is in female friendships, like people just need to take responsibility for it. I've gossiped. I'm gossiping. Like, I've talked behind people's back. Like, it's not my favorite moments of my life, but it just happens. And so how can I take responsibility for that in my life? And then I think also thirdly is just looking at your relationship to your mom and just seeing what that potentially could be leading you to relate to women in certain ways.
Yeah, I didn't even think of that ever, because they say like if a woman has a bad relationship with her dad, it's going to affect her relationships with men, but then we don't think about it the other way too, where it's like what woman has been with you your whole life? God willing, your mother. So it's like how do we
Inshallah.
It's a big one.
Yeah,
it's huge. It is
and
crazy. Even for men and their mothers, like it's just the life that sustains you, and then like really what your early attachment depends on is with your mother.
Right.
The father is there or the partner is there, but like just so much of like how you survive in those early years, very formative years, is because of your mother.
Right.
So
were you and your mom good communicators?
I never showed emotion at home, weirdly enough.
How has that impacted your life?
I don't honestly. I think because I'm the oldest sister, it was always like keep a guard up for your siblings. So if there was like a tragedy in the family, it's like I'll cry in my room. I'm not gonna cry in front of my siblings. So I feel like because I was like that growing up, I just kept that at home, which I don't really mind. Like, but now that I have a boyfriend, I'll sit and cry in front of him because it's like I can, but I don't cry in front of my friends, in front of my family. Like,
You don't cry in front of your friends?
no.
I love you.
It's kind of crazy, right, though?
It's crazy.
It's crazy because I don't struggle with
I cry every
communication.
second.
Yeah, no, I don't. I think I cried in front of my best friend once. We were like getting ready in a hotel in Boston, and she's like my best. Like, we've been friends for, I'm 24, 23 years. Like, our moms are friends. Yeah. So like once I was like just doing my makeup in the hotel room, and I just started crying, and she was like, Liv? Like, she's like, do I have to take you to the hospital? Like, what's going on? And I just was bawling. But I will say, after I cried that one time, I felt like I could cry in front of her again, but I just didn't have to. But I just was like
You're like, then I moved on.
yeah, I moved on. Like, after my breakup happened, like, there was only one or two friends that were like really there for me, and I didn't cry in front of them for like the first year. And I just was like, yeah, I don't know.
I love that.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with it. I just, you know.
I wish I could.
Yeah, exactly. There you go.
Yeah.
I wish I could. It feels good. But I do think for a
good.
lot of women, you know, what happens when we share that type of vulnerability is there's a part of us that's kind of vulnerably coming forward of crying. And then what happens is if we've been told to hide in our room, if we've been told that feeling isn't safe, if we've been told that we're too much, if we've been told to suck it up, that part, if it's rejected in that tender, vulnerable moment by the friend, and the friend isn't meeting us in a way that feels safe, is going to go back and never come out.
Oh, yeah, for
So
sure.
if that friend didn't meet you in that way, you're like, that's
for
never
sure.
happening
If I'm
again.
like my full personality in front of someone and they're like, can you stop? You're too loud. You'll never hear from me again.
Oh my God.
Like, ever again. I'll never laugh in front of you again. I'll keep myself quiet. Like, I'm very big on like, if it's just like, I'm like fine with jokes, but if someone's like, oh my God, her presence is too loud or too open or too outgoing, like, I will shut myself off in front of you. Like, you don't deserve to see me like
For
that.
sure.
But like, I think also with the thing of your mom and the emotions, I think also I've maybe seen my mom cry once. So I feel like that's also because my mom maybe protected her kids from seeing her emotion. That's probably why I protect my emotions.
For sure.
That
Do you know
makes
what I
sense.
mean?
It makes total sense. And I think your listeners can think about that. You know, it's so helpful to think about, okay, if I think about my mom, how did my mom relate to emotions?
Right.
How did my mom relate to my dad? How did my mom relate to her body? How did my mom relate to other women? And it's not like we have to look at it and be like, my mom sucks or my mom is the worst or, you know, nothing bad about it. But objectively, you can really just learn a lot about how you're relating to women and your life by looking at them. It's crazy, you know?
Yeah.
I think for women, like my mom with emotions, my mom would be nothing and then erupt and freak out. And it was like chaos. And it was just kind of like too emotional, that kind of experience of it, like being too emotional, felt like too much. So I don't know how, I think I would just adjust to what everyone else was, you know?
And kind of be what the balance
needed. Be what the balance was.
Yeah. My mom was emotional, but definitely like had like just put on a face, I think, a lot of the time. But she would share things with me, maybe like, you know, more. And she's said this to me as an adult, but like I shared too much with you. So I like saw emotion in that way, where it was like, it was good to see emotion, but also it was like an aspect of her experience in life that maybe at that age I didn't quite need to be exposed to.
Like,
you know what I mean?
innocence away a little
So it's
bit
like
too early.
parentified a little bit.
Yeah. Do you know parentified?
No.
So basically the concept of being like a parentified child is like a therapy concept, but it's basically when usually the oldest or one of the children in the house takes on more responsibility than a child should. So whether that child takes on financial responsibility and starts working too early, emotional responsibility, and maybe is the mediator between parents, it can be something that just is too much responsibility for a child. And usually the child assumes the role of a parent and steps in and starts to play the role of like a parent in situations. And then they can go into their life and relationships and sort of assume the role as like taking care of other people. So they always feel like they have to take care. So in my case, in my home, I was parentified in the way that my parents struggled with their mental health. So in order to like support them. I learned how to be in order to support them. So I learned to take care of them. I'm like, I'm going to take care of them. I'm going to do these things. And we can sometimes do that, especially as oldest children.
Big time.
Wow.
Yeah.
And do you feel like this kind of like takes away from your innocence a little bit?
Exactly. You're exactly right. That's a very, yes, you're exactly right.
My
That's what it
boyfriend
does.
always tells me, like, you're too innocent. I can't tell you this or I can't tell you that. Like, there's certain things he doesn't want to tell me because he's like, you need to stay innocent.
Oh, about life in the world?
Just life, his family, or anything. Like, it's like, he's like, if you knew everything I knew about this or that, like, you wouldn't. And then I'm like, no, tell me. And then he tells me, and I'm like, oh. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Do you want to know or no?
Not anymore.
Yeah, literally.
I'm like, you know what? I'll keep my innocence. It's more so just things where you're like, my brain won't go a certain way.
Yeah,
like
totally.
I literally just simply cannot fathom certain things, or be like, no, that person would never do that. Like whatever. And my boyfriend's like, babe, like, and then he'll explain it, and I'm like, oh my God.
Yes.
So it's crazy.
I actually keep boundaries with that, where I don't want to know anything, and I don't want anyone to tell me anything. Yeah. Like people will start to tell me a story, and they'll be like, oh, did you see this? I'm like, I don't want to hear.
Oh, I'm so
I don't
want
to know. I want boundaries. I don't. Wow. They're like, did you see that little story of that animal? I'm like, nope, not available. Like, we can choose what we input and what we take in as far as information, the news, media, whatever, even gossip.
I don't watch the news.
I don't watch the news. No. Even gossip. If someone this morning was like, oh, did you hear about this person? And I'm like, I don't want to know about that person because I do not want someone doing that to me. I do not want someone in a hotel room talking about someone.
Right.
Da-da-da-da. It's like we have to really think about how we're using our energy and the way we want people to be treating with us.
Yes.
And how do you think you remain unbothered with other people's gossip or business? You think you're just at a point in life where you're just like, how do I not
care? I'm just so obsessed with my life.
Okay.
I love my life. I love everybody in it. I love creating. I love serving. I love who I am. I love who I become. And when you're so obsessed with your own life, you're like, they can have a great life too. Like you just are, I love that. You're truly happy for other people. Yes. Like the more happy you are with your own life, the less you're going to talk bad, the less you're going to care, the less you're going to be obsessed. Like it just completely transforms how you see the world.
And I think the more compassion that you have for yourself, just as you kind of learn more about why you are the way you are and how you can become who you want to become, then you have more compassion for other people. Right. And you also just have this, I was someone who always wanted to like save people, help people, nurture people in a way that wasn't always healthy.
Right.
And now it feels so much better to be like, their soul has chosen this. Like, it is none of my business. You know, I am here if they are a dear friend or family member to give emotional support or whatever. But yeah, I just don't meddle anymore. I don't like think how I can solve a problem within their experience. Because it was just like, it was actually more about serving me, if I was honest with myself. You know, it was about like, I want to be the greatest friend ever, or I want to be the best daughter, or I just want to be seen as someone who like is always thinking of others. And I'm like, that's interesting. Right. Like it's really about how I want to feel about myself, you know, rather than letting people have their experience and not commenting on it, projecting onto it, or meddling.
Yeah, I always say in the show, like, you can't change people around you, but you can change people around you. So you can't change who's in your life, but you can separate yourself from them a little bit, you know?
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, and like you were saying, you felt like it was deep-rooted, too. Do you guys watch Friends? Or no?
I've
Friends
never,
people?
You guys have never finished.
You guys aren't Friends people?
Of Friends?
The episode.
Yeah, but I just haven't seen every single episode.
Oh, because there's an episode where Phoebe like says you can never do a selfless act. So no matter what you do, like she was like, even if you try to help somebody, you're only doing it so that you can feel like a better person, or you can be the person that fixed them. So that reminds me of like when you were kind of saying like, I'm the same way. Like I always tried to change people, and then I'm like, what am I doing? You waste so much energy on it.
100%.
So much energy. That was a lot of my energy. Was like, okay, I want this friend. This guy's toxic. She can't be with this toxic guy. Okay, she hates her job. I should probably help her look for other jobs. Okay, so my parents, you know, like just and then where was I spending any energy on my life? And then I was looking at my life, and my life wasn't perfect. I was struggling in my own way. So I think, especially for women that are listening that are your age, it's like, take your energy that you're putting out and just focus on you. What can you do with your life? Who do you want to be? Like, what can you create? How can you really just take all of the trying changing other people, and what would you change about yourself to make yourself the person you want to be?
Right. And like you were saying about loving your life, and that's why you're unbothered. you guys love your life, I love my life, but do you feel like there's a difference between loving your life and feeling fulfilled enough in your life?
That's a profound question.
I love that.
I get deep here.
That's a good one.
In my experience, it's almost like my life is always calling me to sustain that fulfillment. And what I mean by that is like, it's going to change throughout my life how I am fulfilled. So I love my life. I feel incredibly fulfilled right now. And I know that there's going to be a wave of rumbling that kind of comes up where I want to create the next thing. And I want to, you know, focus my energy on this thing or this person, or I'm going to have another season of like deep inner work or healing. Like I try my best to be as present to what is in my life right now and how it is just satisfying me, bringing me joy and pleasure, and also teaching me and helping me to grow, and knowing full well that like it's going to change, you know? So I don't know if that answered your question, but I think striving to be in love with my life and fulfilled for me feels very similar. It's like if it's a similar texture for me. Yeah.
I think loving my life feels very high energy and feels very fun. And then being fulfilled is more peaceful. It feels more like peace, where it's like, oh, I'm fulfilled. I'm really fulfilled. And I feel like I love my life right now, and I feel fulfilled, and I want more.
Right, because you're accepting the fact that I'm fulfilled with this now, but I might not be in 3 months
Yeah.
from now. But it's okay because I can do something that will fulfill me. Yeah.
Yes. I think I've always been someone that wants more, and I think I've come into more peace with that. You know, I was really struggling like a few weeks ago where I was thinking about what I wanted for my life, and I almost felt shame. Where I was like, oh, I don't know if God wants me to have that big of a life. Like, I think God wants me to live on a farm, and God wants me to, like, you know, worry about the recycling program in my neighborhood and whatever the heck. And I was like, no, whatever I want, God wants for me. And I just want something beautiful. I want something big. I want something that's unique to my soul and why I came here. And I think I will be only gifted and given what is absolutely meant for me. So I think my fulfillment, I feel fulfilled, and then I always want more.
Right, the right thing will never pass you.
Yeah.
So, and I always say, like, you'll never find peace in a situation that's not meant for you. So, if you weren't meant to be doing this, you wouldn't feel as fulfilled and happy as you do.
Yes.
And I think it's really nice that you said that even just a few weeks ago, you were having this big, because I've been feeling this for the past few weeks. And I think that.
Say more about what you're feeling.
More so like, okay, therapy.
I know. I'm curious.
Yeah, I'm more so like, is this actually what I'm supposed to be doing if it hasn't taken off the way I want it to take off? Because I think also this industry, specifically the podcasting, social media industry, I think there's room for everybody at the top, but I also think it's become extremely oversaturated.
Yes.
So I started this 4 years ago. When I started it 4 years ago, I was always on the charts. Everyone, like, there was no one else doing it. So there was no one else there. And in the past 4 years, everyone's been doing it, which I think is great for some people. For some people, I think they just use their fame to talk into a microphone. But it's like frustrating sometimes. It's like, damn, like this celebrity has $1 million to put into a set and a microphone. Of course they're going to get more views than me and beat me on the charts. So I think I just had like a realization the past few months of like, I'm not where I'm supposed to be. Am I doing something I'm not supposed to be doing? Because I feel like I would be rewarded more if I was meant to be doing this. And I feel like that's something a lot of people struggle with. So let's talk about it.
I think that's so real.
Definitely.
I think that's so real. You can go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about this in the book related to career and purpose, and like, can it be the same thing? Should it always be the same thing? And should there be kind of the typical validations that come alongside your purpose, meaning, you know, the likes, the views, the top of the charts, the abundance? And I think absolutely that could be a part of your experience. And I'm someone who's always checking in with, how does this feel? Do I feel creatively inspired? Do I feel like it gives me energy rather than drains me? Does it feel like I'm serving in a way that I'm proud of and that really impacts people? And there have been times in my life where, like, for example, I started New Mom on the Block recently, and I feel like I've impacted this like really, relative to almost 30, like, small group of people, and it still feels amazing. And I'm like, what's that? You know, we've had so much success with almost 30, and then I'm like, oh, this feels amazing as well, but it's like a different validation. So I'm just getting curious about that, you know, like, does your podcast still fulfill you and excite you and just bring you joy? And I think that's just as important. You know, obviously we can get into the nuance of like, are you spending more than you should, than you're making, and is it draining your bank account? That's an issue. You know what I mean? Like, there's kind of the nuance there, but I actually think that it's very important that we look to, does it give us energy? Does it light us up? Because oftentimes it's just going to take a little bit more time and a little bit more grit and a little bit more commitment to it. I think we're so used to getting things overnight and like having the viral post, and this is what we should be getting in that speed. But sometimes we've been doing this for 10 years. You know, it takes time. So
I think when we're kids, you know, as a child, you're like dancing in your room by yourself, and then you're having so much fun and you're enjoying the process, and then all of a sudden your mom puts a camera on you and she's like, dance, and you're like, okay, and you're like, I'm dancing for mom and I want to like perform for mom. And so that happens when we get older too, where we're like, I'm podcasting because I love it. I'm doing this project because I love it. I'm creating content because I love it. I'm doing this thing because I absolutely love it. And then it kind of distorts to turn into something where we're like, okay, wait, no, I have to do this for other people, and now I have to like become this thing, and it has to be big, it has to look in this certain way, and we kind of lose that like touch with why we do what we do. So I think first it's like finding the ways in which we can fulfill ourselves again and make it interesting and fun for us, and then making it something that is like just something we love to do. But then I think second, it is honoring like seasons and chapters. You know, something I had to learn in my 20s too was that like it's okay to end things. And I'm not saying your podcast is amazing, you're crushing, you're doing so well. I'm not saying this about you at all, but I'm saying this even for anyone listening, that it is okay to end something and to move on and be like, actually this chapter feels good and I feel complete, and I think I want to move on to doing my YouTube more. I think I want to move on to whatever the thing is. So knowing that ending something is okay. And then firstly, just remembering like why you do what you do, and it's because you're so good at it and you have such a gift and you're so powerful at it and you are impacting people. And, you know, I do think last thing, I do think I have that same thought too in my life where it's like, if I'm not being rewarded, is this not meant for me?
Right.
And I always get curious about that question because, you know, law of attraction and sort of in the realm of, you know, the laws of the universe, there is kind of that energy where if it is an energy that's meant for you, there won't be more energy behind it. But I don't know, because I still struggle with that kind of thing.
Right. And I just feel like it's hard working for yourself is just so hard. There's nothing stable, there's nothing guaranteed. And it's like, thank God I live at home, but it's like, if I didn't live at home, like how much more, what is this actually what I would be doing? Or would I just work a corporate job so I know how much I'm making every month, you know? So I think that's a difficult part too of your 20s, especially nowadays. We need money more than we ever did, which is like so sad, but it's like really how things are. And do you guys ever feel, because sometimes I'll have like a period of time where I'm just working like at the computer every day. Do you guys ever feel guilt for working too much?
Yeah. So in our book, we have a whole chapter on career and purpose and burnout. Right. And I really wanted to talk about burnout because I think I really struggled with it. You know, I know Lindsay's had seasons of it. I still feel like I'm kind of at the edge of burnout almost all the time. And I think my guilt was a little unique maybe because I'm a wellness influencer, podcaster, whatever, and I teach about wellness and spirituality. I'm working with women every day. I'm helping them live better lives. And so I felt like I was a fraud, where I was like, I'm portraying a life that's really fun and easy breezy and all this stuff, but I'm like working literally 8 hours a day. Right. I'm literally working in a way that is not normal. And so that's where I felt shame, where I was like, I don't know if I'm portraying the right thing, but I also don't want to promote how much I'm working with people. I don't want them to think that this is the way they should work. So there was kind of just a discrepancy for me being someone that's public. But I think for women, it's very normal to like push ourselves, to want for more, to create, to all these things, and to eventually, you know, have a space where we're burning out. But we're not going to live our best lives by burning out. So if we can find a way to have more balance, I'll say, in a way that feels unique to us, I think the better.
Right. And you are on like a completely different, you're on like living two lives right now, I feel like. So what has that been like for you?
Yeah, it's been like, I feel the most fulfilled I've ever felt after becoming a mom. Feel like more like myself than ever. And it's like the hardest thing I've ever done. It's the hardest juggle. I was like laughing with our makeup gal this morning because I'm like, even though I have our nanny who's incredible, my husband was there this morning to help with Mav, he was still on my leg. I'm trying to do my hair, get my outfits. You know what I mean? It's like, it's just, it's hard. You know, I'm not going to ignore my child and just kind of like skate by. It's like, I'm very high touch with him. So being high touch with everything else in my life as well is just like something I'm learning how to do. And I really don't expect myself to do it well every day. Like I've been very kind to myself because I know that this is a lot and that I'm learning. You know, I think I'll get better at it. But it's also just really helped me to like have a better perspective on everything, you know, like I think to go into this book launch week, like I'm so excited and I'm so proud, and like it just, you know, I think my brain can go a lot of different ways in times like these, and it has like for moments, but I'm like, you know what, this is such a beautiful moment, and for my like son and husband to be witnessing this too is like another layer, and just to have written this book while I was pregnant, like there's just a lot of things to like be proud of and celebrate. And I think for me, after I like gave birth and just have gone through the last 2 years with him, I'm like, whoa, like you can handle a lot. So I just think I have a lot more like respect for myself, and I kind of honor when I can't do it all, and I honor that I'm like constantly in process of like yet again of like learning and growing and being able to hold more, and it feels like a yet another stretch season that I'm in. So sometimes I find myself just kind of standing back and being in awe of like what is happening, rather than being so in the weeds of it that I'm overwhelmed and critical and judgmental of myself.
Did you ever hear about the mom method?
No.
So the mom method is all about progress over perfection. So if you had a good mother figure in your life, she might not have made you the best dinner every day, but there was dinner on your plate every day. She might have not, like, she was always driving you to school and picking you up. You knew when you got out of school your mom was going to be there. You knew when you got home there was going to be food on the plate. So it's not doing the best every day, but it's doing it every day.
Yeah,
so
the consistency
it's
of it.
Consistency of just being there as a mom in your book and all that stuff. Did you guys like dynamics shift a little when you reached motherhood?
Yeah.
I'll let you go.
How. So I think they shifted more when she moved, because we were both in Los Angeles together. So we lived in Los Angeles together for how many years?
7.
7 years together. And so we were together all the time, like doing our thing, just like
recording every day,
just like bebopping around. And I was in a long-term relationship and she was single during that time. So we were just together 24/7. And so then when she moved, it was like just being completely across the country, being on 2 different time zones, I think shifted our dynamic more than having kids. So at that point, we had really recalibrated to like a healthy independence, you know, where we were like, oh, you're doing your thing in your life, I'm doing my thing. We love each other so much. We talk all the time, but it felt more peaceful. And I think when I was in my 20s, earlier 20s, it was really hard for me to not be in contact with my friends 24/7. I was like, oh my God, if we're not talking 24/7, something's wrong, like da-da-da-da. So that just helped, I think, so much.
Totally.
But I do think you can speak to this more. For any woman that's listening, that's having friends that are having kids, your dynamic 100% will change. And you should expect that. And I think the only thing I'll say is that for my friends that have children, I just am so much more flexible and accommodating with them, because I want that same grace when I have kids. And so whatever they need me to come to their house at 5 p.m. and, you know, hang out till bedtime, I'm going to do that. If they want me to, you know, I will make whatever happen, because I do have more flexibility in my schedule as someone that's single.
Yeah, she's been amazing. I mean,
yeah,
she's the best. I think like, yeah, it just changes in the sense like, I just don't have the capacity I used to, you know, like for anything, you know, it's like, I'm only now like almost 2 years in, like starting to get that sense of like, okay, where I can like pour into other things and other relationships in like a real meaningful way. I try to be the best friend to people in my life. I try to be a great wife, a great daughter, whatever. But like there's just like a limit to my capacity that I've kind of recognized over the last 2 years. And yeah, I think it's beautiful to have a friendship like Krista where we've just done so much work together, where like, I think often I hear from women, you know, when this happens in relationship where one, you know, has like a big life change, it's really hard to remain in deep relationship on the other side of it, because of how the change makes you feel about yourself, about the other person. It's complicated, but we have a great way of communicating, just being really honest about like what we have capacity for. And not taking things personally, I think, is a big one, unless we feel that it is personal and then we can talk about it. But it's like, I'm not like, I'm not worried about Krista taking it personally that I'm like, hey, I actually have to be back home at 7:30 for bedtime. You know, it's like
it's crazy for me to be like, I'm going to be her number one priority in life when she has a husband and a baby. And like, it's what happens in life is you guys are best friends and you're each other's number one, and then the natural progression is for you to have your man be number one, your baby be number one. You know what I mean?
But then also meeting each other in those seasons where like you witness the other moving through that, and like it's just such a cool thing if you allow it to kind of happen and be the support that you can be, and like show up for each other in the best way you can. It's so much better than like needing it to go a certain way or be how it's always been.
I think too, I also got deeper with other friends. You know, I have amazing friends in Los Angeles, and it's not even, our relationship's gotten closer and over time, but it's like, I'm at a different phase. I'm single now. I live in Los Angeles. She moved. So that spaciousness created an opportunity for me to deepen with other women. And so that also was like, hey, I have now really beautiful, deep relationships here that are fulfilling me. You have your husband and your baby that are fulfilling you. Like, we're all winning.
That's just like says a lot about your friendship too, because I know how many friendships didn't last in my life because one was single and one was in a relationship. And it's like, I got out of my 5-year relationship, and my best friend had just gotten into her now fiance in that relationship. And I remember thinking like, oh, is this going to affect our friendship? And it literally did not whatsoever. Like she would laugh at my single story dating life, and I would like love her fiance. And don't get me wrong, there's moments where I'd be like, why isn't that me? Like, I want that to be me, and like whatever. And then after a certain point, like, I'm sure there was moments where she was like, damn, I wish I was you. Like, you know.
That's the whole thing. I've lived enough life where you know both sides.
You know both sides.
Yeah, where I'm like, when I was single, after my divorce, a lot of my married friends were like, I wish that was me.
Right.
And I'm like, yes.
Yeah. How is dating in LA?
It's
I hear a lot.
What do you hear?
Everything I see, it's just hell. I think dating in general is hell. So, yeah.
I don't think it's hell because I just don't subscribe to all of that. I think if people spend time on social media looking at stuff about dating and relationships online, they're going to lose their minds.
Right.
And they're going to be in a toxic place. If I was to look online, there's no good men. Dating sucks. There's too many good men. Men are unavailable. You have to be black cat. All of this stuff. And that isn't supportive of my life and the life I want. The life that I want is to have amazing dates and relationships with men that are great and like have these beautiful experiences. And I've had that. I've had beautiful situations and experiences because that's what I choose to focus on. And I also choose to love men. Like, I love men. If they're not good to me, that's fine. It means nothing about me. Like, my delusion with dating is insane. Like, literally, if a man breaks up with me and dumps me, I'm like, he liked me too much. He got scared.
Oh, I'm the same way.
Like, I'm like, it was too much for him.
Right.
He flew too close to the sun, and he got scared.
Right.
Like, it's fine.
But most of the time, can I just say that's
probably
true?
For sure. It's true. Like, it's true.
Like, actually.
So you can make dating what it is. And I just chose when I got divorced to make dating fun and make it beautiful. And it's been great. It doesn't mean I haven't had my heart broken. Like, Lindsay's heard me be on the phone. You know, I've had experiences that have bummed me out. But I'm just like, no, that's not part of my experience. If my vibration is attracting the people that it is, then I'm going to have a good time.
I like that. Yeah. That's fun. That's a good way to look at it.
It is. I would feel like New York. Is New York better?
I don't
do
know.
people say
I
it's
think
better?
it's like different city, similar flavor.
It's definitely very similar. I just think nowadays, just society, at least for my
I totally know. I agree.
Oh yeah, it's
I agree.
Like crazy out here.
Yeah, I think too the apps, being on the
The
phone,
apps, the like you said you love men. Women can't say that nowadays.
I
So
know
a woman
they
goes
don't.
on a date already hating the man, and it's like, well, now you're gonna find every flaw.
What do you expect? Like,
Yeah.
why would
Yeah,
you
I
want?
know.
If,
That's
if
the
a
whole
man
thing.
came on a date with you and was like, "I hate women," you'd be like,
Yeah.
"You're going to jail."
I just think
Yeah.
nowadays the dating is also just like you got the situationships, you have like the hooking, like all of that. There's
Yes.
too much going on.
Yeah.
So like
I agree.
when I met my current boyfriend, I was in the mindset of like I don't want to date anybody. I don't want to go on this date with him. I didn't want a relationship, nothing. So I sat on that first date and I said, "Hey, whatever, the small talk." And then he like asked me like, "What do you want?" And I told him straight up, "This is exactly what I want. This is the type of guy I want. This is the future I want." I was like, if he gets scared away, great. He's not my man. And we were on that date for 7 hours talking.
I've had 3 of my girlfriends say that they did that on a first date. They were just like straight, like 3 of them were just like, "This is what I want. This is what I'm looking for. You can either figure it out or not."
I was like, I don't hook up. If you go on any other date after this one, we're done. Like, you only date me. You can't date
I love
You can't
that.
date. I was always big on that. I was like, you cannot date more like me and someone else. Absolutely not.
Oh my God, I'm obsessed. Did you like him?
Yeah, after the first date, yeah. I will say we texted for like 10 days or something before the first date. We've only been dating. We just hit a year.
Okay,
So
great.
yeah, but we texted, but I was like, oh damn, I'm really gonna like him, and I didn't want to like him. So I went in the first date still keeping in mind like, you don't want a relationship, you're fine. And then we sat across from each other at dinner for 7 hours. Like, yeah, I'm cooked.
Yeah. Like, but I
It's
also
over.
think there's another good thing that you said, I think that's helpful, is that I think when you go into it being like, I don't have any expectation, I'm not looking
Yes.
for anything. I think a lot of times women will go on dates and be like, I'm looking for my husband. He has to look like this. He has to be like this. And it's like, you're just like, I don't want a man to do that to me.
Right.
And I don't want like someone, and it's also just closing the door to what could potentially be possible. Like I also, in my dating process, I'm open to dating men for 2 months and falling in love and having a beautiful time and then ending it and finding another beautiful experience. Like, I'm open and available to learning and growing with men and finding really beautiful relationships that are going to build and help me learn as much as possible for my man in the future,
Yeah, that was something I was really big on too. Was I was also kind of raised in a way of like every decision I made was for my future husband. So I was like very big on that. Like everything I did, I kept in mind. Like I was single for maybe a year and a half before I met my current boyfriend. And even then, like in the hardest times, I was like, this man better be worth what I'm saying no to right now, or like whatever it was. So like I made every decision for my future husband because I was like, this is going to be the father of my children. Like I have to be a certain person for myself as like just how I view myself, and then for him too.
I love that because that's almost like a highest self thing.
Yeah.
Because it's like, having this like highest self. And I've had a friend say that to me. Like, there was this dude that I was talking to, and she's like, would you want your man to know that you were doing this thing with this man? And I was like, what?
Right.
I was like, no.
Isn't that such a crazy way to look at
No,
things?
it is crazy.
And
And,
it- like, some
would you
girls
want
can
him
see
to be
it as
doing
something-
that right now with some other girl?
Right.
And I was like,
Yeah.
no. And she's like, oh, okay, well then you shouldn't do that. I'm like,
Right.
what?
And it can sound toxic for women that don't like men.
Yeah, I
like,
agree.
oh, you're doing everything for a man. It's like, no, I'm not doing everything for a man. I'm doing everything for the man.
Yeah.
And I'll be very picky about who it is, or at least know, like, are they worth it? Are they going to be worth it? So I think that that's also a really healthy way to do a lot of self-work, but also,
And it just sounds like choices that respect yourself.
Right.
Yes.
Which then in turn respect your partner.
Yeah, it's like a secret motive. Like,
I love that.
even though I really want to do this, my best self probably wouldn't like this in a year from now. So just save everything. Your husband will be very grateful for it one day.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
really
it just
cool.
makes you proud. You're like,
Yeah.
this feels good for me. This makes me proud. Like, but it's beautiful to hear you that you like men, because
I love
it makes me sad that, you can't hate a man and then want a man to love you.
Right, exactly.
Like, it's just, that's not going to work. And
I
so
agree.
whatever healing you can do and whatever, grip you can loosen on men.
Yes, there's
is
so
the
many
better.
conditions that we bring
I
to those
know.
moments when we meet people. It's
think-
like, prove to me that you're not
right.
that type
Oh
of
my
guy.
gosh,
It's
totally.
that, or like, the conditions of like, I need my person to be this, 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 and this, and we bring that to the table when we sit down with them. And like, what do we expect? Like, they're gonna fall short
Yeah.
of most of those things because everyone's super unique. They might be bringing some things to the table that you would have never thought you would have wanted, but they're exactly what you need.
And also the list, you need to make sure you're everything on the list you're asking for.
Right, I agree.
So your list of rich, successful, attractive, fit, swaggy, that's my list. Well, like whatever your
Swaggy.
list is, swaggy's always on my list. If you want your list, you have to, are you that list? Truthfully, are you working out? Are you taking care of yourself? Are you making good money? Do you have great relationships? Like, be the list.
Yeah, and have compassion for someone that. I saw this one quote once that was like, sometimes in a relationship you're running while your partner's walking, but you're still going on the same path. So like my boyfriend's 26 and it's like he's 26, he's still figuring it out. I'm still figuring it out. You have to have enough compassion for yourself and for your partner of like, we're both in our 20s, we're both figuring it out. He's going to make mistakes, I'm going to make mistakes. Obviously the extent of the mistake matters, but it's like forgiveness and understanding his finances might not be there yet. Like that is so huge. And I think, like you said, women go in with, I want this, this, and this, but also do you have compassion for the fact that maybe they're not there yet? Because if you're the right woman, they're going to try to get there for you.
Yes.
I think too the content that your generation is also seeing is about men being providers and men, you know, being in this certain way. And it's like, if you're in your 20s, you're a man that's building for the most part, unless you have generational wealth.
It is so
even into
much
your
fine.
30s.
Yeah, you're still building. So to be like, I'm 26 and I want my man to be a provider for us and our family. Sure, that's possible. I'm not saying it's not. That's a beautiful thing. But hey, man, that respect.
Yeah, but I will say it's pressure.
Building.
He's building.
Yeah.
And I always tell him that because he puts the pressure. He's also foreign. He puts the pressure on himself
I'm
too.
sure he does.
And I'm like, dude, you're still young. And he's like, no, I'm not. And I'm like, you're still young.
So young.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
But it's good they have the mentality.
Yeah,
of
I'm like,
just,
keep that mentality though.
hunger
Because
and-
I'll be on one day.
Yeah, honestly, we still need them to have it. You know
Yes.
what I mean? Like,
the
I think most
drive.
men like don't get into their money until they're like 30s and 40s.
Yeah, I agree.
And
like
that's
you
when
said,
they're
unless you're
like-
born into it.
Yeah.
Let's do a little book talk.
Okay.
Let's do some book talk. Almost 30. You guys can see it here.
Looks good.
I need to. It looks beautiful.
Thank you, baby.
Especially for summer now. I'm like, this is gonna look good in my room.
Oh, thank
Love
you.
it. Your nails are matching. Like I love
On
it.
purpose. What do
I
you
love
need?
it. So let me ask you guys, why a book? You have a successful podcast. Why a book too?
It's funny, Krista and I have always had a book on our heart. We you know, we've interviewed so many authors. We've just kind of always known that we would put our experiences into writing. We just didn't know when. And, you know, one of the big messages of the book is just trust the timing of your life, which, you know, when you really step into that, it'll change your life. And this book process showed us that. Our agent approached us and she was like, I see you both writing a book. And we were like, us too. She's like, I think now is the time. And it just flowed from there. It was just such a beautiful, fulfilling process. And, you know, this is the guide we wish we had. Like, you know, if we had this support when we were going through our late 20s portal, like, it would have been different. You know, it would have been more of an adventure and maybe a lot more fun. It was chaotic. It just felt like our life was falling apart. So we've put all of our experiences, intimate stories, vulnerable stories we've never shared in there. We have wisdom from podcast guests. We've interviewed over 800 people.
Yeah,
so we've just taken the best of the best and woven it into the book. And then there's practical tools and just things that you can incorporate into your life literally now, every single day, to create a foundation so that your relationship with change is so solid. Because, like, spoiler alert, change is going to happen for the rest of your life. And so how are you when you move through change? And I think that's really important. So
Yeah, I had to get a new outfit for today.
Oh my God, I love this outfit.
Thank you. So I was at Bloomingdale's last night and there was this woman helping me and she was just amazing. And I was talking to her a little bit and she said she was 27. I was like, how are you doing? She's like, I mean, I just feel lost. I feel like I don't know where I'm going. And I just was like, I'm making this for you. For that person in life that just feels like they don't know where they're going. They don't know what's happening, but they just have this like heart, like something on their heart that they want, who they want to be or where they want to go. And I feel so grateful that we're giving the guide that I wish I would have had in my 20s to everyone, you know, out there.
Yeah, and I was literally just gonna ask who should pick up this book, and you just explained that.
Yeah.
anyone in their 20s, but also
In
like
your 30s.
anyone moving through change. Like it's funny, we got a message from we had a book coach during this process who's just so important. Her name is Nikki. And as Krista and I were writing and we would, you know, kind of send her things to take a look at, she's like, whoa, I'm actually applying this to my life. And she's, you know, in her 40s.
Right.
And she's like, I'm really thinking about my Saturn return and what I was going through at that time and just how those themes have kind of carried with me and just how I can look at them now. And it just, it reminded me that though the title is almost 30, you know, if you're someone that's moving through a season of change, this book is for you.
I love that. And you're always going through a season of change, so I just think that's so important. I'm so
Yeah.
excited to dive into this
Thank
book.
you. So good.
Before I end every episode, I always like to ask my guests what their favorite quote is that they live by, that they remind themselves of. So give me your favorite quotes. You could also use maybe a chapter from your book or something like that too.
One of my favorites is so old and cliche, but I really think about it a lot. Wherever you go, there you are. Have you heard that?
No, I haven't.
And I think when I was struggling really badly with my mental health, when I was living in Chicago, I just remember I could change my location. I could change if I was on vacation, if I was on a cruise, if I was on the beach, whatever. But if I was struggling with my mental health, it didn't matter. No matter where I was, if I was struggling, it didn't matter. And so I just think about that like our relationship to ourselves and our mental health is everything.
I love that.
And so wherever you go, you know, there you are, and there your problems are too.
Love that.
We've been saying this quite a bit, but it's, I think, a profound reminder. You're not behind, you're becoming. You know, I think so many people can compare their lives to other people they see on social media, their friends, their family, what they thought their life should be. And your life is right on time. What you said earlier, what is for you will never, ever miss you. And I think to deeply trust that, it just opens up the aperture of your life. You know, it just becomes so much more fun and exciting and magical. And really this process is your becoming, which is so cool.
Yeah.
You know,
Your life is
exciting.
the journey, not the destination.
Yeah,
It's true. What's yours?
That. Oh God, I have so many. The one that I have like plastered everywhere. I used to have like this long one, but it was basically just saying if you want the love you think you deserve, you have to have enough room in your heart for it. So you have to let go of all the hurt, all the insecurity, all like the bad experiences in order to make room for what's coming in.
Honey.
Love that.
Yeah.
Good one.
Such a good one.
I love that. This has been
So
so
wise.
much
Oh my
fun.
God, I know.
You're such a great interviewer.
Thank you guys for
You're
being
so
my big
profound
sisters
and deep. I got
today.
you.
Oh my God, I loved
Yeah,
talking
so
with you
much
guys
fun.
so much. This was so amazing. Please shout out where everyone can find you guys. So I'll have everything linked in the description too.
Perfect. So Almost 30 Podcast is the podcast. You can come listen. And then almost30.com for the book. You can get the book wherever books are sold. So Amazon, Audible, Barnes & Noble, Target, all of that. And then I'm on Instagram at It's Krista. It's ITSKRISTA.
And I'm at Lindsey Simcik.
Perfect.
Love
Thank
you
you guys
guys.
so much
Thanks,
for coming
honey.
on.
Okay, guys. Bye.
Amazing.